Manning Innovation Award for the development of a spring-activated recorder. You may remember that. I'm sure it's in the archives. And it was absolutely fantastic. These students just transformed the environment because the other students essentially were gathering around them to see how they had done it, because it's not that easy. A tape recorder has got to go at a uniform rate, and a spring has got a very different level of performance. So anyways, that was my first encounter with the Manning Foundation. And so I must applaud the work that they have been doing in recent years. You know, we've got a great panel that we've assembled here today, but we should ask the question of, you know, how is Canada doing in the innovation game? And, you know, how well Canada is doing is really a matter of much debate these days. Our exceptionally high standard of living cannot be maintained solely by relying on our resource industry. And we can't compete with developing countries just based on the cost of manufacturing, because this simply won't work. So we have to be innovators. The news out there in terms of how we're doing as a nation is so-and-so in so many ways. I'll give you one statistic. If you look at the gross expenditures on research and development as a percentage of GDP, many of you in this room will know that Canada has been slipping for the last almost 10 years. In 2001, we were at 2.1% of GDP. And in 2010, we're at 1.8% of GDP. The average of the OECD country is around 2.4%. The US is at 2.7, 2.8%. So there's a bit of an alarm here that needs to be rang, because there is somewhat of a slippage. Yesterday, Research InfoSource published the performance of universities in terms of research funding across the country. Obviously, the universities look at this very seriously. The message there is that the increase in research funding was essentially stable at 2%. So there was a 2% increase. But when you look at the cost of the inflationary cost within a university environment, we're looking at 4 or 5%. So we're not catching up. The other countries are investing at a much faster rate. So we have to be very careful about that. There are other statistics. When I first arrived at the Canada Foundation for Innovation, which is a great organization that supports research infrastructure in universities, research hospitals, and colleges, trying to provide the tools that are essential for the researchers to develop new ideas, develop new knowledge, Canada ranked 10th in the World Economic Forum Global Competitive Index. So I said, that's not bad. You know, Canada, 10th. With all of the investments that we've been making in recent years, it's probably not a bad position. And if we go, year after year, if we improve, it's going to be fantastic. 2011, results come out. We're now 12th. 2013, results came out a couple of weeks ago. We're now 14th. We're going in the other direction. And so this is, again, another alarm that needs to be sounded. But things are not that gloomy. I think there has been massive investments by the Government of Canada in research and innovation across the country over the last 10 years. I like to say that in the year 2000, the granting councils had about $800 million at their disposal annually. Today, the granting councils have $2.7 billion at their disposal annually. That's 325% more than what they had originally. So there's an opportunity there also, but we need to obviously do a better job at coordinating our activities in order to try to generate these new ideas. I like to think about innovation in a variety of ways, the creation of new ideas, processes, improvements, incremental innovation, transformative innovation, and so on and so forth. But I'd like we've got panel members that have been really involved at various stages of the innovation process. And one of the things that I'd like to do that, first of all, let me start by saying that when we talk about innovation, I like to remind my colleagues, when I was either a dean of engineering or a university president, I'd like to remind my colleagues that an idea is not an invention is not a product, and a product is not a business. And here we have individuals, 3 individuals, that have taken an idea, made it an invention, taken that invention, made it a product, and then took that product and made it a business. And so my first question to the panel, and they're all in various stages of that process. Terry, as you heard last night, unfortunately I wasn't able to be there. Terry was developed Aspenware, which obviously is a new company, very innovative company, in the early stages of that company right now, and has done extremely well. And we'll hear from him about the incentives and the challenges that he's had. Dwight has created, as you saw, some products, some ideas, and commercialized them. And he is now also in the academic environment, trying to teach in the business school those concepts to the young generation. And then Steve has had a very illustrious career in the private sector in an area that is very competitive worldwide, and has to think about innovation on a daily basis. To survive and thrive, his company needs to come up with new ideas, new ways of doing things, and new processes in order to be effective. So my first question, and we'll start with Terry, would be to tell us a little bit about the incentives and the barriers that have essentially brought you to create Aspenwares. How did it go? And your first thoughts on that aspect.
Thanks, Gilles. Whew, long time in coming. Is that okay? Good. I think there are many barriers, always. And I mean, from financial to expertise, finding expertise. And I think the number one challenge is when you take a new idea and make it into a product, there's always the need for money, and that initial cash required to. I was a school teacher. You have to stop what you're doing, and you have to start something new, and somehow you have to keep going. And so the cash thing happened to be our biggest barrier. We were able, actually at the time we started, we were able to raise decent amounts of cash, but we also had a lot of government incentive programs that really helped us. The National Research Council and some of their programs, they allowed us to actually start where we needed to with just looking at the markets and figuring out, was it a viable product? We had a great idea, I think, but we had no idea whether it would sell, whether it was going to go, big, little, indifferent. And I think it's important that you do that research, and they actually helped us develop that program. We've had a lot of research and development into our product within our own company, and of course that's money out of our pocket. But the other program we have used is the Scientific Research and Experimental Development rebates. Been a very, very big driver for us.
You've taken this idea and made it a product, and then you've created a business out of that product. You could have gone different ways. You could have generated the ideas and go to somebody else to commercialize that product. How did you decide to take the route that you've taken?
That's an interesting question. You know what? I don't know if I ever thought about having somebody else commercialize the product. Mainly because it seemed to have so many wheels once we get going. So I think I really don't know why I didn't go to the other route. But I think the barrier to getting over our hurdle and our hump was basically that drive inside, and
And now you've got a product. It's commercialized. It's sold across Canada, obviously.
Mhm.
The idea now is to go beyond Canada, I presume.
Yep.
What about the next product? Are you thinking about the next product?
Oh yeah, we've got next products already.
Yeah.
But one step at a time is what we always keep saying. And I'm the worst.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one that wants to go to the next product before we finish the first one.
Right,
So,
right.
And our process has allowed us to develop new products for sure, and they'll be coming to the market.
Mm-hmm.
But I think finishing what we've got right now, getting that perfect, and our motto is bigger, better, faster.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to be bigger, better, faster. Just exactly what you said, to compete and to stay within Canada.
Mm-hmm.
We could commercialize and have somebody else build it offshore, but once you get to the point where you can actually manufacture and some of those outside forces like cost of employment, that sort of thing, they don't become a play anymore as long as you've been innovative enough to keep your product at a cost level. And so we're moving forward to get there.
Super. Let's move on to Dwight, who's obviously created a company around the software that we've heard in terms of the parking allocation, and I think it's downloadable from the App Store, is it? Or
yeah, I'll give you the full story. I'll make one minor correction. I'm not a quote unquote business guy. I'm actually in the School of Computer Science here at Carleton.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I spent a long time in the software industry before actually coming to Carleton, and it's good in that I have this technology background, and when I think about doing something, I can actually go ahead and do it. It is one of the barriers I know is actually finding the trained people with the skills to do what you want to do. It just happened that in my case, and in the company that I have, the people that are involved all have this technological bent to them, so we can actually sit down and do the things that we want to do, which is really great. An incentive for me to actually start the iPark.ca text-based messaging system for parking was that I just didn't want to get wet anymore. I was standing out here at Carleton University one night at the pane display machine, and it was pouring rain, just pouring rain. And I got sopped, and it was in order to get my parking ticket. And I was sort of wet and angry, and I went and talked to my business partner, and he'd just come back from Serbia, and he said, I was telling him about getting wet, and he said, oh, I was using my cell phone over there to pay for parking. And my question, and it's a curiosity, it's like, how come we can't do it here in Canada? So I found out the answer. I know why, and then we spent the next 2 years trying to figure out how to solve the problem. You talk about barriers again. It's all about risk management. We knew that there were a number of things that we had to figure out how to do successfully. We needed to know how to send and receive large volumes of text messages. We needed to deal with the credit card industry. We needed to make sure all of our servers were secure, and the list just kept going on and on and on. So it took us about 2 years to actually figure out all the hoops that we had to go through to minimize the risk. And after we had that, then the barriers were removed. We went ahead and built the service and started it here at Carleton, I'm proud to say. And sort of the rest is history after that.
Mm. What were the major barriers, though, that you encountered?
The major barriers were dealing with the carriers for sending text messages. We had to figure out how to do that. And also dealing with the carriers as well, because you'll find over in Europe a lot of times things you're doing with your cell phone get billed directly to your cell phone account. Mm. For various reasons, there's very few companies that are actually going to do that here in Canada for